Welcome back to The Parent Solution. I'm your host, Kimberly, and this is episode 22 today. So last week, I promised that I would be talking about how to keep your child engaged and how to keep your child interested in the learning process. So one of these ways that I believe is necessary and that I believe this can happen is through advocacy. And this leads into the concept of actually teaching your child how to advocate for themselves. So today, I wanted to take a couple minutes to chat about advocacy itself in regards to, at first, why it's important, and then offer a couple suggestions as to how to instill such a thing or teach your child such a skill as self-advocacy. Whether you're a parent or if you're an educator, I think these tips are some helpful suggestions on how to start, even if you have no idea where you're actually starting. So over the past 2 years or so, it's become a lot more obvious that the public education system is no longer about education, actual true education, but in terms of providing a service. And that, I would say, is glorified babysitting. This is, of course, no fault of the participants within this system. It's not the teacher's fault. It's not the student's fault. Nobody here is to blame individually. The system itself is not designed for any sort of maximum impact, and it's certainly not designed for any sort of sense of efficiency. Instead, I think it serves as a sort of glorified babysitting service for working parents. So let's chat about why that is and what we can do as parents and educators to find a practical and holistic alternative. This sort of thing brings up the question as to why we might have this inefficient system in place, this massively inefficient system in place. What's stopping us from vocalizing our opinions and from doing something concrete about it? Why and how does this continue to be accepted as normal and as quote unquote good enough? Why haven't we looked at and taken concrete steps towards alternatives? Quite simply, because this sort of massively inefficient system still works well enough. Our kids, know their math operations for the most part. They know how to read and they know how to write. So isn't that enough? And on the plus side, your children have built-in babysitters during the majority of the workday. I would argue that this is not enough. Teaching the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic may have been fine 30 to 40 years ago, but this is an outdated system now. When was the last time the curriculum was updated? Depending on what subject's being discussed, you're looking at, I'm not kidding you, anywhere from 10 to 20 years ago. Years. This means that the requirements for material that's taught, not even for the material that's learned, but the material that's taught has not been refreshed or analyzed for relevancy for longer than your child has likely been alive. There's an old saying, and it says, don't fix it if it ain't broke. And that comes to mind here. This sort of mentality certainly does not apply to schooling or to education in any sense of the phrase. While the current schooling system as an institution is certainly not completely broken, it leaves much to be desired in regards to authentic and genuine and quality education. Now we get to the solution part of the podcast. How do you go about fixing this sort of systemic problem? My first piece of advice would be to take baby steps because it always helps to take one thing at a time. So I have 3 tips that I think will be very helpful in terms of providing a sort of general guideline roadmap to finding a practical, holistic alternative. Number 1, quit trying to fix the system as it is and instead build a new one. This may seem like it's the most radical idea that's been suggested so far, but it's really the only idea that makes sense. It has the added bonuses of increasing individual control over the actual educational content, as well as encouraging and increasing actual true learning and fostering closer relationships with children and students. Building an alternative school system, it looks different for everyone, but one thing is certain, it requires time and finances and dedication and definitely parental involvement. For those who may be questioning where the time comes from, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. While each family or individual has different time constraints on them, forming small groups or pods for supporting younger children in their learning journey is a great solution. In terms of finances, think about it for a second. If your children are not in public school, the money that would go for their education taxes can now be designated for alternative learning. You're not being asked for more money. You're simply allotting it to a different area or a more valuable area, I would argue. As for dedication, that's a personal drive that nobody but you can decide if it's there or not. And in terms of parental involvement, that's a non-negotiable. If you wish to provide your children with an alternative form of learning, you have to be involved. Period. End of story. Taking a step backwards from what has always been considered, quote, unquote, the norm is difficult. There's no doubt about that. But when it comes down to it, it really is all about your priorities. You have to ask yourself what is truly important to you, because if it is of such importance, you have to let your priorities reflect that. Tip number 2, recognize that there will be a process of unlearning the majority of things that you thought you knew about education. The absolute hardest part of alternative education is learning to let go of some of the most societally ingrained ideas that we as a people, as a human race, have about education. And one of these ideas is, one of these concepts is the idea that children have to be learning for 6+ hours a day. Here's the thing. Our brains are very capable. Even as capable as they are, they're not meant for consistent stimulation or for a rigid sort of formation, because we as human beings by nature are creative beings. Now, there have been blogs, studies, and tons of research experiments all on this subject, and a simple internet search is going to bring up millions of results, thousands of which are reputable. So if that's something that you're interested in, you have the internet at your disposal. But my point here is that we as humans need time for relaxation, for rest, for play, and for enjoying life. We were not meant to have every single moment of our time planned and accounted for. And yet, this is precisely what a typical school day promotes. It's a rigid and refined structure from which there is very little deviation. I find that speaking to parents who want to take their children out of the school system, this is one of the most common things that they struggle with, in particular, when they move from the public education system to a more holistic approach. And it's not something that's a physical struggle, it's something that's a mental block. Something that may be helpful to overcome this sort of mentality is to take a good long look at your children. Are they happy with school, the academics portion of it? Do they get excited to learn about things? When you ask them what they learned in school, do they start off on the most exciting thing in the whole wide world? Or do they say, oh, nothing much, or oh, nothing interesting, or even worse, nothing? Another piece of advice I have that goes with this is to be honest with your kids and encourage them to be honest with you, because unlearning these systems of indoctrination takes time and it takes effort on everybody's part. It's okay not to have all the answers, and it's better for your children if you're honest with them about not having all the answers. This leads me to tip number 3. Find multiple supports for guidance and for help. I just finished saying that it's okay not to know everything. It is. And the reason why is because you can find a network of support that can provide a variety of services for whatever your alternative educational needs look like, that can help with some guided direction. No one person can do it alone, and there's absolutely no shame in that. I did another podcast a little while ago about the importance of finding your tribe and finding your village. The added responsibilities of educating children, it doesn't have to be all on your shoulders. It's actually better if it's not. Parents should absolutely take a crucial role in their child's learning journey, but it doesn't mean that they have to be the only role that their child sees. A large part of doing alternative holistic education is knowing that you're not alone and that you're not responsible for absolutely everything. Because you can ensure quality education and foster that lifelong desire to learn within your child by making sure that you choose the right sort of education. Honestly, there is no one-size-fits-all, not when it comes to learning. You have to trust the process of unlearning and the journey of holistic education, because it's going to take you much farther than anything else ever will. It'll take your children much farther than anything else ever will. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Parent Solution. I hope it's instilled a sense of confidence in taking on the responsibility of teaching your child or your student the skill of self-advocacy. And I also hope it's encouraged you to think about some steps that you can take to start or to improve upon your child's holistic learning journey. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, I welcome feedback. Please feel free to reach out through social media channels or through email, all of which can be found on my website.